The market square was full of noise, but it was not the usual sound of trading and laughter. It was fear. People whispered, shouted, and pushed each other away from the center. There, under the shadow of broken stone walls, stood a girl. Not an ordinary girl. Her skin had a pale glow, her eyes shone faintly in the dim light, and her teeth sharp and long caught everyone's attention. She was an alien, and her kind was known for one thing: the bite. Everyone in the town knew the stories. One bite from her kind could stop a strong man's heart. One bite could send poison running through the veins faster than any medicine could cure. Children were told never to go near them. Soldiers carried heavy weapons, but even they feared her kind. And now, one of them stood here, trembling, cornered. Surrounded by humans who wanted her gone, mothers clutched their children. Old men spat on the ground. A group of young soldiers shouted, trying to keep her from escaping. But none dared to get too close. Their voices were strong, but their feet stepped back at every move she made. She looked hungry, desperate, and wild. Her hair was tangled, her clothes torn, her lips shaking as if she fought the urge to bite. The crowd shouted louder. "Monster!" One man cried. "She will kill us all." Another woman screamed. Stones were thrown, though most missed. The alien girl growled, her sharp teeth flashing as she hissed at the crowd. Everyone stepped back. Fear filled the square like smoke in the air. But one man did not move. He was tall, broad-shouldered, and wore a simple jacket marked with the sign of a soldier. His face was calm, eyes steady, and his hands stayed loose by his sides. He did not shout, did not curse, did not throw stones. He only looked at her. The alien girl's eyes locked on him, confused. Why was he not running? Why was he not afraid? The people noticed too. "Stay back." Someone yelled at him. "She will bite you." Another warned. But the man did not listen. He stepped forward, slowly, carefully, as if he were walking toward a wounded animal, not a deadly predator. The crowd gasped. Some even turned away, unable to watch what they thought was about to happen. The alien girl snarled, her teeth dripping with saliva. She was ready to strike. She had been hunted, hated, and cornered too many times. No one had ever come close without trying to kill her. And yet, this human walked closer with steady steps. His boots scraped against the ground. Echoing in the silence that fell over the square, the alien girl's chest rose and fell quickly. She could hear her own heartbeat loud in her ears. She crouched low, her body tense like a predator ready to spring. The man stopped only a few feet away. The distance was nothing to her. She could leap forward in a single move and end his life before anyone else could blink. The crowd knew this. That was why they cried out again. "Run, fool, run." But the man's voice was calm when he finally spoke. "I am not here to hurt you." His words were slow, clear, and soft. They surprised everyone, even her. No one had ever spoken to her like that before. Not with calmness, not with patience. Her eyes narrowed. She hissed, "Stay away." Her voice shook, not with weakness, but with fear of what she might do if he came closer. The man tilted his head, studying her as if she were not a monster, but a puzzle. "You are afraid," he said gently. "You don't want to bite, do you?" She flinched, as if his words struck her harder than the stones. Her lips pulled back, showing her teeth again. But her eyes betrayed something else: pain, sorrow, desperation. The crowd muttered in shock. Was he talking to her? Was he trying to reason with a creature that could kill him in seconds? It made no sense. But the man's calmness did not break. He took one more step forward. Her body reacted instantly. With a wild cry, she lunged. Her teeth opened wide, her claws stretched, and she flew at him like a storm of rage. The crowd screamed. Mothers covered their children's eyes. Soldiers raised their weapons but were too slow. The alien girl's shadow fell over the man, and for one breathless second, it looked like his life was over. But he did not move. He did not flinch. He simply stood, eyes steady, as her teeth came closer and closer to his skin. The crowd held its breath. The air froze, and then the screen went black. The alien girl's teeth stopped just inches from the man's neck. The crowd gasped, waiting for blood to spray across the square. Mothers pressed their children tighter. Soldiers lifted their weapons, ready to fire. But nothing happened. Her jaw trembled, her sharp fangs gleaming in the light. But she did not close them on his skin. Her chest rose and fell like a drumbeat, wild and uneven. She could end him. She should end him. Yet something inside her froze. The man did not blink. He stood steady, his breath calm, his eyes locked on hers. No fear, no panic. No hatred, only a strange, steady calmness. The alien girl's hands shook. She pressed her claws against his chest, sharp enough to tear through his jacket. The crowd shouted louder, "Kill it before she kills him." Some men threw more stones, but the girl ignored them. Her whole world had narrowed to this one man, this strange human who did not fear death. Why? She whispered, her voice so low only he could hear. Her fangs hovered by his throat, her words muffled by her trembling lips. "Why aren't you afraid?" The man's lips curved slightly, not quite a smile, but not far from it either. His voice was low, steady, almost soft. "Because fear feeds you. If I fear you, I give you power. If I stay calm, I take it away." Her eyes widened. No one had ever spoken to her like that. No one had ever dared. Her kind was hunted, hated, treated as walking poison. People shouted at them, chased them, burned them out of hiding. But this man spoke as if she was something else, something more. Her hands pressed harder against his chest. She could hear his heartbeat now, slow, steady, not racing like the others, not wild like prey. He was calm, too calm. "You lie," she hissed. "Humans always lie." "I don't," he said simply. "If you wanted me dead, I would already be dead. But you didn't bite. You held back." Her claws trembled. His words cut deeper than any blade. She hated them because they were true. She had stopped herself. Why? She did not know. The crowd grew restless. "He's mad." Someone shouted, "Kill them both before it's too late." Soldiers moved closer, rifles raised, but the man lifted one hand. Not toward her throat, not in defense, but slowly, gently toward her face. The crowd screamed. Sure, this was the end. Her breath caught. She hissed loudly, baring her teeth once more. "Don't touch me," she warned, her voice sharp, broken, filled with something that sounded almost like fear. The man tilted his head, studying her like a soldier studying a map. "You don't want me to touch you? Because you're afraid of yourself." The words struck her harder than the stones that had hit her earlier. She jerked back slightly, though her claws still clung to his chest. For a moment, her eyes softened pain, loneliness, confusion. But then she snarled again, trying to hide it. "You don't understand," she growled. "My bite kills. My touch curses. You think you are brave, but you will die." The man's eyes narrowed slightly, and his voice lowered even more. "Maybe. But maybe you are wrong. Maybe your bite isn't what you think it is." Her lips trembled. She almost said something, but stopped. No one had ever dared to challenge her belief about herself. No one had looked at her as if she were something more than a monster. The silence stretched. The soldiers aimed their guns, waiting for an order. The crowd held its breath. The girl's claws pressed harder, but her body shook, as if she battled with herself. And then, slowly, the man moved closer. Not with speed, not with fear, but with calm certainty. His voice was quiet, but everyone heard it in the silence. "Bite me if you must, but I don't think you will." Her eyes flashed. Her teeth grazed his skin, so close the crowd could see the thin line of red where they had touched. Gasps filled the square, but she did not sink them in. Her heart raced. She wanted to deny it, to prove him wrong, to show the crowd she was the monster they feared. But she couldn't. She couldn't make herself do it. The man's hand reached higher, stopping just near her jawline. His fingers hovered, not yet touching, but close enough for her to feel the warmth of his skin. Her breath shook. Her eyes darted to his face. His calmness was a shield, and she couldn't break it. "Why? Why do you not fear me?" She whispered again, her voice cracking. The man leaned forward slightly. His words falling like a secret meant only for her. "Because, maybe. You are not the monster they think you are." The crowd erupted with shouts, fear, anger, disbelief. Some screamed for blood, others for mercy. Soldiers took aim. The alien girl's heart pounded, torn between striking and fleeing. But in that instant, with the man's hand almost touching her, she faced a choice she had never faced before, and for the first time in her life, she hesitated. The girl's teeth hovered near his neck, but she could not bite. Her claws pressed against his chest, but she could not strike. Something about this human was different. Something about his calmness disarmed her. The crowd behind them grew louder, restless, and angry. "Kill it already!" Someone shouted. "Don't let it curse him." Soldiers adjusted their weapons, waiting for the order to fire. But the man raised one hand slightly, signaling them to hold. His eyes never left hers. "You want to know why I'm not afraid?" he said softly, his voice steady and even. "I'll tell you. But you need to listen." Her eyes narrowed. She hissed, shaking her head. "Humans don't tell truths. You lie to survive. You lie to kill." "Not this time," he replied. His voice carried the weight of certainty, like stone unmoved by storm. For a moment, she hesitated. Her body trembled as if torn between instincts. She could bite him now and end the question forever. Yet his words hooked her. Something in them, something in him pulled her closer, against all reason. He lowered his voice, speaking only for her. "Do you want to know my secret?" Her breath shook. She hated him for asking. She hated herself for caring. Yet she found herself whispering back, "What secret?" The man's eyes darkened with memory. "When I was young, I was bitten. Not by your kind, but by something worse. A creature whose poison killed a dozen soldiers before me. It sank its teeth into my arm. Everyone thought I would die." Her gaze flickered, sharp and doubtful. "You lived." "Yes," he said simply. "I lived. The poison burned me for days. It filled my veins with fire. It wanted to kill me. But it didn't. I didn't let it." The girl's claws twitched against his chest. "Impossible," she whispered. "Maybe," he admitted. "But I learned something. Fear makes poison stronger. Panic makes it spread faster. But calm makes it weak. I survived because I stayed calm." Her lips trembled. His words felt dangerous. Dangerous because part of her wanted to believe them. Part of her wanted to believe she was not just a weapon of death. "You think my bite won't kill you?" she asked, her voice low and filled with disbelief. "I think," he said slowly, "that your bite is not the curse they believe. Maybe it is something else. Something more." The words cut into her deeper than any blade. She stared at him, searching his face for a lie, for fear, for weakness. But there was none. His eyes held no mockery, no disgust, only certainty. The crowd shouted again, louder this time. "He's bewitched. Kill them both." Soldiers raised their rifles, their fingers tightening on triggers. The man ignored them. His world, like hers, had shrunk to this moment. "You don't know what you're saying," she whispered, her voice shaking. "You don't know what my bite has done. I have seen bodies fall. I have seen blood spill because of me. I cannot stop it. I am death." His reply was firm. "No, you are alive. And anything alive can change." Her chest rose sharply, anger mixing with confusion. She wanted to scream at him, to prove him wrong, to bite and end the torment. But her body betrayed her. She could not move. She could not strike. His calmness held her still, for the first time in her life. Someone looked at her, not with hatred, not with terror, but with belief. Belief that she was more than the curse she carried. The girl's throat tightened. Her eyes burned, but she refused to let tears fall. She had been strong too long. She had been hated too long. Yet this one human dared to challenge the truth she had built her entire life around, and it terrified her more than any weapon. "Touch me," she whispered suddenly, her voice sharp, almost desperate. "Touch me and see. My bite is death. My touch is poison. If you live, then maybe you speak truth. If you die, then you are just another fool." Gasps rose from the crowd. The soldiers shifted, some ready to fire, others frozen in disbelief. The girl's eyes locked on his, daring him, begging him, testing him. The man did not hesitate. His hand lifted slowly, his fingers brushing against her jawline, dangerously close to her fangs. The warmth of his skin met the chill of hers. The girl's breath caught. Electricity shot through her body, sharp and strange. Her teeth trembled against his skin, but still she did not bite. Her voice broke into a whisper, fragile and uncertain. No one has ever dared this before." The man's voice stayed calm. "Then let me be the first." Her claws loosened slightly, her body trembling as if torn apart by something unseen. For the first time, she felt the bond her people had spoken of in whispers, the bond of blood. The bond of the bite. Her eyes widened with sudden fear. She jerked back slightly, her voice filled with dread. "You don't know what you've done. You don't know what it means." The man's eyes narrowed, steady as stone. "Then tell me." The alien girl stared at him, her lips trembling, her body shaking with a secret she had never shared with anyone. Her voice dropped into a whisper, filled with fear and truth. "My bite does not only kill," she said. "It binds." The words froze the air. The crowd did not understand, but the man did. He felt it in the strange energy now pulsing between them. And before she could explain further, before he could ask what binding meant, her body swayed, her strength faltering. She gasped, clutching his chest, as if something inside her had awakened. The crowd screamed. Soldiers shouted orders. But the girl's final whisper broke through the chaos, her eyes locked on his. "You have chosen death. Or me." And then she collapsed. The alien girl collapsed, her body trembling as if fire spread through her veins. The crowd gasped, expecting her to strike, but instead she fell against the man's chest. He caught her before she hit the ground, holding her weight with ease. People shouted from every side. "It's a trick. Kill them both." Soldiers aimed their weapons, their fingers tightening on the triggers. Mothers dragged their children away, terrified of what would happen next. But the man stood firm, his arms steady around the girl, his eyes never leaving her pale face. Her breath was uneven, her lips moving as though she fought to speak. He bent down, listening closely. Her whisper was faint, but sharp as a blade. "You don't know what you've started. The touch. The bond. It cannot be broken. The man's jaw tightened, but his calm did not falter. Then let it begin, he murmured. Slowly, he raised his hand again, brushing his fingers against her cheek. The contact sent a strange shock through both of them. The girl's eyes widened, glowing faintly with a light the crowd had never seen before. Her fangs trembled, her body shook, but she did not pull away. Gasps rose around the square. He touched her. Someone screamed. He's cursed now. But the man did not release her. His hand rested gently near her jaw, steady as stone, while her claws curled weakly into his jacket. The girl's breaths came faster, her chest rising and falling with the effort of resisting instincts older than memory itself. "You should be dead already," she whispered, staring at him with a mix of wonder and terror. "No human survives this long." "Maybe I'm not like the others," he said quietly. His voice was calm, but his heartbeat quickened. He could feel something strange moving beneath his skin, a warmth that was not his own. The bond had begun. The girl trembled harder, her body fighting itself. She tried to pull away, but his hand held her steady, not with force, but with certainty. Their eyes locked, and in that instant, both of them felt something neither had expected. Her memories flooded into him. Images flashed in his mind, flames, tearing through alien cities. Soldiers dragging her people into cages, screams echoing across battlefields. He felt her loneliness, her hunger, her endless flight from those who called her cursed. Every moment of her pain burned inside him. His jaw clenched, but he did not release her. And in return, she felt him. She felt the weight of battles he had fought. Scars carved into his body, the silence of nights spent alone. She felt his steady courage, the unshakable calm he carried like armor. She saw his memories of comrades falling, of poison trying to consume him, of him standing unbroken when all others fell. Her breath caught. You are not afraid even now." "I told you," he whispered. Fear feeds poison. Calm weakens it. Tears welled in her glowing eyes. No one had ever touched her without dying. No one had ever looked at her without disgust. And now this human stood, holding her steady against her trembling storm. The crowd did not understand what they saw. They shouted, screamed, demanded blood. Some threw more stones, but the man ignored them. His world was locked with hers. The girl's body shook violently, as if torn between instincts. Her fangs grazed his skin again, close enough to draw a thin red line. She whimpered, pulling back just slightly. "I can't stop it. If I bite, it will bind forever. If I don't, it will consume us both." The man's hand pressed gently against her cheek, his voice firm but calm. "Then choose. Bite me, or let me carry it with you." Her eyes widened. The glow inside them pulsed brighter, her breath shallow. The crowd's shouting grew louder, soldiers stepping closer. Tension filled the air like thunder before a storm. And then slowly, trembling, she lowered her head. Her lips brushed his skin. Her fangs touched his neck. The square froze. Gasps erupted from every throat. Soldiers prepared to fire, but the man did not move. He held her closer, steady, even as her teeth broke his skin. Pain flared hot and sharp. He felt it sear through his veins like fire. The crowd screamed in terror. Mothers shielded their children. Yet the man's face stayed calm, his jaw set, his eyes locked on the trembling girl in his arms. The alien girl bit down, not fully, but enough. Enough for the bond to flow. Energy rushed between them, wild, ancient, unstoppable. The ground itself seemed to hum beneath their feet. Her eyes blazed, his body shook. And the connection between them deepened. She pulled back suddenly, her lips stained with red, her voice breaking with shock. "You should be dead." Why aren't you dead?" The man's chest rose heavily. His breath was ragged, his body weak. But his eyes burned with quiet strength. "Because maybe your bite was never meant to kill me." Her body froze. The words struck her heart harder than any weapon. For the first time in her life, she wondered if her curse was not a curse at all. The crowd erupted into chaos. Soldiers shouted orders. Some prepared to fire, others hesitated, unsure if they had just witnessed death or something far greater. The girl clung to the man's chest, her glowing eyes wide, her body trembling. "You don't understand," she whispered in horror. "The bond is real now. You can't escape it. You are bound to me, forever." The man's lips curved into a faint smile, calm even in the storm. "Then so be it." And before the crowd could act, before the girl could explain more, the ground shook as a low, distant roar filled the sky. Shadows fell across the square. Enemy ships descended from the clouds, their weapons glowing with deadly light. The girl's eyes widened in fear. The man turned his gaze upward, his jaw tightening. The bond between them pulsed stronger. The real war was about to begin. The sky trembled with the roar of enemy ships. Red lights spilled across the square as massive vessels descended through the clouds. The crowd scattered in panic, screaming as shadows fell over them. Soldiers raised their rifles toward the sky, but their hands shook. They knew those ships carried firepower far beyond their weapons. In the middle of the chaos stood the man and the alien girl, still locked together, their strange connection pulsing like a hidden fire between them. Her claws clung to his jacket, her eyes glowing brighter with every heartbeat. His veins burned as if fire spread through them, but he refused to let go. The girl's breath came sharp and uneven. "You don't understand," she whispered, her voice almost breaking. "The bond is alive now. It will take everything from you." The man's face was pale, sweat running down his temple, but his eyes never wavered. "Then let it take. If this bond shows me who you are, I accept it." Her lips parted in shock. No one had ever said such words to her. No one had ever chosen her, knowing what it meant. The energy between them surged. Suddenly, his mind was flooded again with her memories. He saw her as a child, hiding from soldiers, crying while her people burned. He felt the pain of her hunger, the shame of being called cursed, the endless nights alone. Every wound, every scar of her life bled into him. At the same time, she felt his life unfold inside her. She saw him marching through ruined cities, carrying injured comrades on his back. She felt his pain when he buried friends, one after another, yet never broke. She felt his strength, not the strength of weapons, but of spirit unyielding. Unbreakable, their breaths matched, their hearts beat together. The bond grew stronger. The girl's eyes glistened. "No one has ever survived this long," she whispered, staring at him with wonder. "Even my own people fall when the bond awakens. But you're still standing." His jaw tightened. "Because I'm not afraid." A scream cut through the air. The crowd scattered as beams of fire rained from the enemy ships, tearing holes into the ground. Buildings collapsed, flames spread, and the soldiers shouted orders that no one could hear over the chaos. The man pulled the girl closer, shielding her with his body. "They came for you," he muttered. Her eyes widened in fear. "They always come. They want the curse. They want the bond. If they capture me, they will use it to destroy everything. And if they kill you?" he asked. "Then they win," she whispered, trembling. "Because the bond dies with me." The man's eyes narrowed as he looked at the descending ships. His grip tightened around her shoulders. "Then we won't let that happen." Her voice shook. "You don't understand. Fighting them means death. My kind fled. Your kind hides. No one can stop them. He leaned close, his words sharp and steady. Then maybe together we can. The girl stared at him, her glowing eyes wide, her body trembling. For the first time in her life, someone did not treat her as a weapon or a curse. For the first time, someone treated her as a partner. The bond flared again. A surge of energy burst between them, so strong the ground beneath their feet cracked. The soldiers and townsfolk stumbled, gasping at the sight. The girl's glow spread, wrapping around the man like a shield. His blood burned, but his strength did not fade, grew. "What is this?" he asked, his voice strained but steady. Her lips trembled. "The bond shares power. My bite carries death, but it also carries life. Together, we are stronger than either alone." The man's eyes burned with determination. "Then let's use it." The ships roared closer, their cannons glowing as they aimed at the square. People screamed, scattering into the ruins. Soldiers fired useless rounds into the sky. The girl grabbed his arm, her claws digging lightly into his skin. "If you fight with me, there's no turning back. Once the bond is sealed, you will carry me inside you forever. My pain, my hunger, my curse, everything." His voice was calm, almost defiant. "Then I'll carry it." Her chest tightened. She wanted to argue, to warn him again, but the bond pulsed, sealing deeper with every heartbeat. She felt his will merging with hers, his courage burning inside her, his strength flowing into her veins. For the first time, she did not feel alone. The sky lit up with fire. One of the enemy ships opened its cannon, ready to strike. The man held the girl's hand, and together they raised their eyes to the falling light. The bond flared so bright the crowd shielded their eyes. A wave of energy burst outward, pushing the first strike off course. The beam tore through a building instead of the square, saving dozens of lives. Gasps filled the air. Soldiers froze in disbelief. People stared with wide eyes. The girl turned to him, her glowing eyes filled with shock. "No one has ever done this before. The bond has never protected." The man's lips curved into the faintest smile. Maybe it was waiting for the right pair. The ground shook again as the ships moved closer, their weapons charging for another strike. The bond pulsed hotter, stronger, wrapping them both in strange energy. The girl's voice broke with fear and wonder. "If we fight them, the bond will consume us. It could kill us both." The man tightened his grip on her hand. His eyes steady, fearless. "Or it could save us all." And then, as the ships unleashed their fire, the man and the alien girl stood together, their bond blazing against the storm. The square shook as the first blast struck. Dust and fire rained down from shattered buildings, and the screams of fleeing townsfolk echoed through the smoke. Enemy ships circled above like predators, their red cannons glowing with deadly light. In the center of the chaos stood the man and the alien girl, their hands locked together, the bond between them glowing like fire in the storm. Energy pulsed from their bodies, forming a shimmering shield that deflected the falling debris. The people who had once called her a monster now stared in disbelief. Soldiers who had aimed rifles at her lowered their weapons, torn between fear and awe. No one could deny what they saw. The bond was real, and it was powerful. The alien girl's voice shook as she clung to him. "They will keep coming. The bond has marked us both. If we fight, it will burn us alive. If we run, they will hunt us forever." The man's eyes narrowed, his jaw tight. "Then we don't run. We stand." Her glowing eyes widened, fear and wonder mixed together. "You don't understand. The bond is not a gift. It is a curse. The more we use it, the deeper it cuts. My people fled because none of them could survive it. Even the strongest were consumed. The man glanced at the terrified crowd, at the soldiers trying to shield children, at the broken walls and burning homes. His voice was calm but heavy. If we do nothing, they all die. If we fight, at least they have a chance. Her throat tightened. His calmness was a shield, but this time it cut into her heart. Why did he choose to bear what no one else would? Why did he choose her, the cursed one? "You will not survive this," she whispered, her claws trembling against his skin. "The bond will kill you." His lips curved into a faint smile. "Then let it kill me, standing." The words struck her like lightning. She had seen countless humans scream in fear, flee from her bite, spit at her name. Yet this man offered himself willingly, knowing what it meant. A lump rose in her throat, sharp and heavy. Above them, one of the ships lowered, its shadow covering the square. Its weapons glowed bright, ready to fire again. The crowd screamed, many dropping to their knees, expecting death. The girl clutched his chest, her voice desperate. "If I release the bond now, you might live. If I bite deeper, it will be sealed forever. You will be bound to me until death. This is your last chance to walk away." The man's eyes locked on hers. "Do you want me to walk away?" Her lips trembled. For a moment, she saw the truth in her own heart. She did not want him gone. She wanted him close, even if it meant his end. She wanted him to stay, not out of fear, but out of something she had buried deep inside, the longing to not be alone. Tears welled in her glowing eyes. "No," she whispered. "Then the choice is made," he said. The ship fired. A cannon beam tore through the air, racing toward the square. The bond between them pulsed like thunder. Together, they raised their hands, their joined energy forming a barrier of light. The beam struck hand, shattered against their shield. The crowd gasped. Soldiers froze. For the first time, the enemy's attack had failed. The girl's body shook violently. Power surged through her veins, burning like fire. She screamed, her voice filled with both pain and strength. The man held her tighter, his own body trembling but unbroken. The blast faded, smoke curling through the air. The people stared in silence, eyes wide, unable to believe what they had just witnessed. The cursed girl, the monster they had feared, had saved them. And beside her stood the human who had chosen her, calm even in the fire. But the girl's voice was weak, trembling. "It won't last. Every time we use the bond, it consumes us more. Soon it will drain everything." The man wiped blood from his lip, his eyes fierce. "Then we use it until the last breath." Her chest ached, her claws digging lightly into his arm. She wanted to scream at him, to beg him not to throw his life away. But the bond pulsed again, and she felt his will as clearly as her own. He was not fighting for himself. He was fighting for everyone else. Above them, more ships circled, preparing another attack. The air crackled with coming fire. The crowd huddled, waiting for the end. The girl leaned close, her glowing eyes wide with fear. "If we keep fighting, we may win. But the bond will claim us both. You must choose, save them or save yourself." The man's voice was calm, steady as ever. "There is no choice. We save them." Her heart clenched. She wanted to believe it was courage, but deep down she feared it was madness. And yet, the bond told her something else. It told her his words were true. The enemy cannons lit again, brighter than before, enough to wipe the entire square in a single blast. The girl clung to him, her body shaking as energy built between them. "Then we die together," she whispered. "No," he said firmly, his eyes locked on the coming fire. "We live together." And with that, the bond erupted, brighter and stronger than ever before. Light exploded from their bodies. reaching toward the sky just as the enemy ships unleashed their full power. The square vanished in fire and brilliance. Asterisk. Light swallowed the square. The blast of the enemy ships met the bond's eruption, and for a moment the world seemed to shatter. Stone walls crumbled, fire roared, and dust filled the air. The people screamed, covering their faces. Soldiers dropped to their knees, certain death had come. But when the smoke cleared, they were still alive. At the center stood the man and the alien girl, their bodies glowing with strange energy, their hands locked together. The bond pulsed like a living flame, deflecting the enemy's fire. Cracks spread across the ground around them, and the air shimmered with heat. But they stood unbroken. The crowd stared in silence. The girl they had once called cursed was now their shield. The man they thought mad was now their savior. Above, the enemy ships roared in anger, regrouping for another strike. Their weapons glowed, ready to unleash destruction once more. The girl's body trembled violently. Blood dripped from her lips, her glowing eyes burning brighter with every second. "The bond is too strong," she gasped. "It will burn us alive." The man's face was pale, sweat glistening on his forehead, but his eyes were steady. "Then we burn together." Her chest ached at his words. She wanted to scream, to tell him to let go, to save himself. But the bond carried more than pain, it carried truth. She felt his will, his strength, his unshakable resolve. He had chosen this path, chosen her, chosen to stand even at the edge of death, and she realized something that froze her heart. She did not want him to die, not for the crowd, not for the world, not even for her. She wanted him to live because, for the first time in her life, she had found someone who did not run, someone who did not fear her, someone who reached for her when everyone else fled. "Stay with me," she whispered, her voice trembling with desperation. "Don't leave me alone." He turned his head slightly, his calm eyes meeting hers through the glow. "I'm not leaving." The enemy cannons roared again. Fire rained down, shaking the earth. The bond surged higher, brighter, wrapping them in a shield of pure light. The blasts struck, but this time the energy did not only defend. It pushed outward, a wave of force striking the nearest ship. The vessel lurched, metal screeching as it spiraled out of control, crashing into the distant hills with a thunderous explosion. The crowd erupted in cries of shock and hope. "They can fight them," someone shouted. "They can win." The soldiers, who had once aimed their rifles at the girl, now raised them at the sky, rallying behind the two figures who stood unbroken. For the first time, fear turned into courage. The girl gasped, her body shaking, but the man held her tighter. "You see?" he said through clenched teeth. "Your bite doesn't destroy. It saves." Her eyes filled with tears. The bond had always been death, always been fear. But now it was life. Together, they had turned a curse into a weapon of hope. The ships above shifted formation, preparing for one final strike. A fleet of cannons glowed bright, their power enough to level the entire city. The people screamed, knowing this was the end. The girl's voice broke. "If they fire, the bond will consume us both. We will die before it is done." The man's voice was steady, strong. "Then let's finish it before they do." The bond pulsed again, stronger than ever. Energy flared from their bodies, wrapping around them like wings of light. The ground shook, the air cracked, and for a moment, they looked less like prey and more like gods standing against the storm. The enemy fleet unleashed its final barrage. Beams of fire rained down, filling the sky with destruction. The man and the alien girl raised their joined hands. And the bond answered. Light exploded outward, a massive wave of energy surging toward the sky. The blasts met the shield, but this time the bond did not only resist, it consumed. It drew the enemy's fire into itself, then hurled it back with greater force. One ship exploded, then another, then another. Fire lit the heavens as the fleet broke apart, falling in pieces across the horizon. The crowd below fell to their knees, watching in awe as the cursed girl and the calm man stood together, their bond blazing brighter than the sun. When the last ship fell, silence covered the square. Smoke drifted across the sky, broken only by the glow still burning around the pair. The girl's body collapsed against his chest, her strength nearly gone. Her voice was weak, trembling. "You should be dead. No one survives this long." The man, exhausted, bleeding, but alive, smiled faintly. "Maybe no one tried with you." Tears slipped from her glowing eyes. She clung to him, not as a monster, not as a curse, but as someone who had finally been seen. The people rose slowly, whispering in awe. No one shouted monster anymore. No one called for her death. They had seen the truth. The man lifted his gaze to the crowd, his arms still around her trembling body. His voice was weak but clear. "She is not our enemy. She is the reason you live. Remember that." The people bowed their heads. Soldiers lowered their weapons. The square that had once been filled with hatred now stood in silence. Filled with respect, the girl looked at him, her lips trembling. "Others fled my bite. Only you stood. Why?" His hand brushed her cheek gently. "Because I saw what no one else did. You weren't a curse. You were waiting for someone not to run." Her heart clenched. For the first time, she believed it, and as the bond pulsed one last time, binding them fully, she whispered through her tears, then together, "We rise." The light faded slowly, leaving them standing in the ruins of a square that was no longer filled with fear, but with hope. The bond had not killed them. It had changed everything.